a special day for all of us. We've all had family or friends that have been in the military and fought for our freedom, and this is a day where we can say thank you to even those families who have had people lose their lives. Veterans Day is November 11th because that was the last day of World War I. And on this day, there's a color guard from combined military services that execute a present arms at the unknown tomb at 11 o'clock. So it's a week where we ask our players to make sure that they reach out to people who are in the military or families who have people or who have lost people in the military and say thank you, that we can have the lives we have, because we should do it every day. But this is a day and a week where we can say thank you and reach out to all, and we ask our players to call and text and send pictures and make sure that people are honored this week who not only have fought but are fighting. Even though Veterans Day is for those who have finished, we also want to honor those who are competing and fighting for our lives right now. So it's a special week for all of us. I'll wear this during the game. In honor, we'll have military at the game. We'll honor military at the game, and this will be our military appreciation game. Bye week, it's unusual to have two in a 2-week period, but it was good for us. A team that's getting well, a team that's doing more positive things, a team that's getting identity as we finish the season. It was a team we said all along we thought would build to finish better than our other teams. We've played more people, we've got more depth. We had more adversity than we expected early in the season, so we had our bad games as well. But we feel like now that this was good timing for us. We were able to work on Wake Forest, who has a very unique offense. We were able to work a lot of young guys. We were able to get well. A guy like Omarion, who carried the ball, touched the ball 30-something times last week, had a week where he could not, he wouldn't be hit. He would just get fresh and stay in shape and do the things that will help him be ready to go this week. We thought at the first of the year that Darwin Barlow would really take a load off of Omarion, and he hadn't stayed healthy. It's just been really hard for him to stay on the field, and you can see Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, he's really talented. So he's a guy that we've really missed, but we need to get him back on the field. We were able to talk to all the players about, are you going to redshirt in these last 3 games? Because they can play in the bowl game, and it doesn't count, but they can only play in 4 games. So if a guy's got 3 games now, or if he's already played in 4 games, you talk to him about, if you're just on kicking teams, do you want to finish on those kicking teams, or do you want to wait? Like Caleb Hood, we're going to redshirt if we possibly can. He's only played in 2 games, so that would give us a great back coming back next year. If we don't have to have him to win a game here the next 3 weeks, and then we could play him in the bowl game if we needed to. We talked to guys who might possibly transfer, because this time of the year you've got agents that are calling schools and looking around all over the place because we're getting calls from other teams. We talked to guys that might go to the NFL early. We talked to guys that might opt out of the bowl game. We got to win another game to get to a bowl game, but we plan on doing that. We looked at a depth chart for the bowl game with possible opt-outs, because that's been harder. It's hard to figure out who your team's going to be, but we've played more people, so we got more depth. So we feel like we'll be better prepared for a bowl than in our past. And then we looked at portal thoughts. Who are we losing? Who do we have to replace immediately with some older guys? And then we looked at depth chart possibilities for spring, because spring's different. Are you going to have enough people to have a spring game as you start looking at your spring depth charts? We also looked, we had Pat go over all the revenue sharing thoughts, what that would mean with the possible 105 roster. We have to start looking at what that means in the spring. There is a portal in December, and then there's a portal after spring practice. So they kept 2 portals. Last year, the portal after spring practice wasn't near as active as the one in December, but the one in December is very active. So we've got to look at that. Signing date is much earlier this year. So you've also got to look at your high school signees. So we got a lot of good work done, but we got a lot of mental work done and a lot of talk with the guys as well. We're coming off 2 really good performances with this open date. We found our identity. We executed much better and played better complementary football against Virginia and Florida State. We're one of 5 teams in Power 4 that's averaging at least 200 yards rushing and 200 yards passing. That's only 4 in the whole group, so we've been very, very balanced. I think we're 24th in the country offensively. So we've done a good job of staying balanced. We got 32 sacks on the season. That's tied for 4th nationally. We've had 17 in the last 2 games, which is phenomenal. And that's something that we've got to try to continue to do as we finish the season. It's the first time that UNC has had held back-to-back opponents to fewer than 300 yards on the road since 2007, and that was Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. And we've had a great week's practice preparing for Wake Forest. We've had some unbelievable games with Wake Forest since we've been back. They've come down to the end, just about every one of them, and expect this one to be the same way on Saturday night. We've had very few penalties over the last 2 weeks. That's another thing that we've really cleaned up. So we've played and coached very well for the last 2 football games, and Virginia had a great win up at Pittsburgh on Saturday night. People didn't expect, and then Notre Dame jumped all over Florida State, which Florida State's struggling, and we know that. So offensively, we're rushed for 289 yards against Florida State, had 0 turnovers. In fact, we've had 0 turnovers for the last 2 weeks. Jacoby Criswell continues to get better. He's still got some room to grow. He had the 1 sack in the 1-minute drill before the half, but he's making plays with his feet. He's not turning the ball over. He's protecting the ball better. He hasn't had a fumble in a while as a quarterback. But I really like the decisions that he's making. He's gotten out of trouble with his feet and thrown balls downfield. And we've had some contested catches that we're starting to catch. But he's really making some good decisions, which we really appreciate with him. We were 3 for 4 on touchdowns in the red zone and had the 1 4th and 1 that we didn't make. And that's twice this year we haven't made 4th and 1. So we've got to continue to look at what's wrong there and what we need to do to improve. We did make a 4th and 1 on the goal line later on during the game for a touchdown. Defensively, we held Florida State to 42 yards rushing, 7 sacks. We forced 2 interceptions, and we had 2 others in our hands that we should have caught that we dropped, and we can't do that. We've got to improve in forcing turnovers in the next 3 ball games. And again, we held Florida State to their low at that time, which was 11 points. They only got 3 this weekend against Notre Dame. And we've had very few missed tackles the last 2 weeks. We're tackling much better in space. And it all starts with the dominance up front. Our defensive line's been dominant. They've been physical. They're stopping the run. They're forcing the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands faster, and that obviously helps your secondary. And the same thing with the offensive line. When you can run the ball, everything else works. And we've said that for 5 years, and here we are. And it does work when you can run the football better than the other team. Just everything else seems to fall into place. Special teams, we won again. We had a great return by Elijah Huzzy and Nate McCullum. Nate's so close to going all the way. Coverage units have been really good. They've been aggressive, and we're covering better than ever before. Most of those units are with young guys that are earning their right to play more, and Tom ended up with a 41-yard average on 3 punts. So that's much better in all those phases than we have before. Players of the game that were announced last week: Omarion Hampton, 172 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 93 yards receiving, and a touchdown, 5 touchdowns. He moved past Natrone Means and Ethan Horton into 7th place in the UNC's all-time list. And all great backs get better in the 4th quarter, and he does that. He doesn't even seem tired. And when the defense gets tired, he doesn't. and that's the signature of the great backs that I've been around. He can run, he can catch, he protects the ball, he's a good pass protector, but he doesn't get tired. And he wants to touch it every time he gets it. And the little shuffle pass that he had at the end of the game where he ran about 50 yards, he looked faster than everybody. So he didn't look like he was tired at all. Bo Atkinson, 5 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 4.5 tackles for loss. I think one of you asked me after the game, what about Bo? You know, we've been so good on defense the last 2 weeks. There's so many people getting tackled, I don't sit there and count them. So you all knew he had that many. I had no clue that he had that many, because a lot of times he's getting back there with Rucker and Dez, and they're all getting back there at the same time. So it's really, really impressive to have 3.5 sacks. I mean, that's unbelievable for Bo. And in fact, some of them are calling him Bo Sadkinson now. So that's a good nickname for him as they start looking at him moving forward. But really, really proud of Bo. Nate McCullum and Michael Short were the 2 special teams players of the week. Nate had the 49-yard kickoff return. He's so close to breaking one. And we haven't been very good in that area the last few years, so I'm proud of him. And Michael Short he's playing more on the field. He's getting better, but he's been a tough guy with tackles on kickoff coverage and punt coverage. And he's the first one down. He and Malcolm Ziegler raced to see who's the first one down on kickoff coverage. So really, really proud of Michael Short that he's improved so much, and will continue to get to play more because he and Caleb Lavalley are playing more now in the games than ever before. And we've talked about having to get our depth, and that's helped Amari Campbell with some rest, and he's playing really, really well over the last 2 weeks. Wake Forest is coached by Dave Clausen, who I really respect. He is a dear friend. He's in his 11th year at Wake Forest. He's done an amazing job through COVID and through all of the issues that have come up with college football the last few years of running our head coaches meetings. They're all on Zoom. We usually have one the first Wednesday in every month in the off season, and he's been amazing at taking on hard topics, and you've got that many egos in a room that run their own building and run their own meetings, and I'm really impressed with Dave and how much he cares about the game, and he's worked closely with the AFCA, and he's helped us a lot in rule changes. So he's done an amazing job in those areas. His teams are always well coached. They do a great job recruiting. They minimize their mistakes. They have very few penalties. They know who they are and what they want to do, and they do it. I've always admired that so much about him. Damon Claiborne has rushed for 824 yards and 9 touchdowns. He is really good as a running back. He's one of the best running backs in the country, and he's a guy that can beat you because he's quick, he's fast, he's tough, he breaks tackles, he's got great hands. Hank Boschmeyer has played well. He's got great weapons at wide receiver. They've always recruited so well at running back and wide receiver. And a lot of times it might not be somebody that everybody knows and heard of, but they can find them. And I've been impressed with them since I've been here. But Hank was 20-9 at Boise before he went to Louisiana Tech and then went to and then came to Wake. So he knows what he's doing. He does a great job. Their defense is very sound. They play great red zone defense. They force a lot of turnovers. Nick Anderson leads their team in tackles with 94, and we'll have our hands full this weekend. And it should be a fun game. It's a game that's going to be a blue out, so we've asked everybody to wear Carolina blue. It'll be a night game, which will be fun on ACC Network. It is Military Appreciation Game. You and fans will see when you come to the stadium, there's 2 logos of Tylee Strong on the field that we're very, very proud of. There's some other acknowledging things. They will have a sign over the exit to the stadium with Keep Swinging Tylee Strong on one side and Keep Swinging on the other. So Tylee's presence is still here. It's still with us, and the guys talk about him every day and his legacy and what he did for all of us. So, did I miss anything? Thank you. Questions?
Mack, do you have now, or have you had while you've been here at UNC, any veterans on your team?
It's a great question. I don't think so. We had Nate Boyer at Texas, and Nate was a Special Forces guy. And, you know, we do have Charlton Warren, who was 10 years Special Forces with the Air Force and is really an unbelievable man and dedicated his life. Air Force graduate, coached at Air Force. So this will be a special week for him, and we'll have him involved in our motivation and preparation some this week as well. But I don't think we've had anybody involved in the military on our team since we've been here.
Sounds like you spent a lot of time with roster management in the off week. Just how many guys have said they want to redshirt, and how many guys have indicated they want to transfer after this?
Nobody has said anything about transferring. Now, they might not tell us, you know, very honestly, but we feel like that's kind of the elephant in the room now. Who's going to leave and who's coming back, and how many are you going to have? And then you're adding to the proposal of 105 as a roster in the future. So what does that mean? And what about your walk-ons, and who gets to stay and who has to leave, and what do they do? Do you help them transfer in December if they have a place to go? Can walk-ons get in the portal and have a fair chance? So more than anything else, that's where Pat Sudda's position as general manager, Chip, has become so important to us, because we have to look at, we're losing a lot of defensive linemen. We'll probably lose O'Marion. You would think he would go because he's going to be such a high draft choice. So you have to look at key positions, and you need to fill those spots in December because you need them for spring practice. So it's interesting, and now we're even asking kids, if you're not going to play in the bowl game, we've got it, but we need to start winning some bowl games. So we need to know now so we can prepare for you not to be in the game. And some of them may not tell us, but usually their agents are going to tell them not to play. So that's what we've just got to anticipate anyway. But the red shirt thing is, we look at it, and if a guy's played 4 games, but if he's just been in on backup special teams, let's don't waste him. Don't put a guy in a game just to put him in to let him play. And we've told the kids, if your play is going to help us win one of the last 3 games, we're going to put you in. But we're not going to waste your time. And we probably will even have some guys on the sideline Saturday that during the game will take their helmets away. Because we've all had that awful story of some coach sending one in that he just got excited and he forgot he had 4 games already and he can't play one more. So you want to take the helmet away so when the coach grabs the kid, you can say, I don't have a helmet. So he won't put him in. So that was what last week was about.
Is that a small number?
No, it's a big number. I was surprised. A lot of your freshmen, if a freshman isn't on special teams or he's not Aiden Banfield or Luke Masterson and they've played in every game, then they've played 2 or 3 games.
You say you asked them, how much of it is, you're saying you're going to redshirt and it's really not their decision as much?
If they're not playing, it's easy. What we don't want to do, and to be clear, is we don't want to play someone that would like to redshirt in a game where he's not going to change the outcome of the game. That's the biggest thing at the end here. Let's don't waste a young guy's year because he's going to be the 3rd guy going down on a kickoff, and you stick him in to be nice to him and let him play. That's for the bowl game. We can let them play in the bowl game, and that's a great rule by the NCAA, that you can play in the playoffs, you can play in a championship game, or you can play in the bowl game, and it doesn't count. But we've got to be smart with the kids with only 3 games left.
You keep mentioning the bowl game, 1 win away. Like, is that now part of sort of the general conversation you're having with this team? Maybe a motivational thing, like 1 more win and we're in a bowl?
Well, Adam, we've always been really honest with them, and they're real smart, or they wouldn't have gotten in here, and they can count. So they know. I mean, it's not hiding, but no, we feel like we have a chance to win the last 3 games. And the way college football is, as crazy it is, we obviously have a chance to lose it. We could have won 7 or 9 as easy as we could have won 5. And I put that on our coaches. I've told them that. I said, that's it. Coaches can put it on players. Coaches are supposed to get the players motivated and ready to play. That's our jobs. So we never put it back on the players. But we're planning on winning every one of them, and we're planning on going to a bowl. So that's what we talk about.
Mack, it's been over a month since you guys last played at Kenan Stadium, and your last home game was obviously a really difficult day for you, really difficult day for the program. Can you just put into words like how much better it feels in this building now when you guys are preparing to play Wake Forest versus, you know, just after Georgia Tech?
Yeah, Michael, it's a great point. Having a sickness is a real burden on everybody. I mean, there's just pressure, and all of us know that have children what your children mean to you, and then as a player, coach, what the players mean to him. And Tylee got sick so fast, it just really got us all. And we watched it. I mean, it was right in front of us every day, and we could see him going down. And we didn't know if he'd make it till the end of the season, but there was a point there where we said he's not going to make it to the end of the season because it's going too fast. There's too many things that are shutting down. And then you have to manage it all. And football becomes very unimportant when you're talking about life and death of a person. I mean, football is very important, and we want to win. But it really puts things into priority when you're talking about life and death. And I feel so much for those families who have lost a child. I can't imagine, and I don't want to imagine, losing a child. In fact, September's coming back to the game this weekend for the first time, and she's going to be there to see the things that have been done in his honor, which I'm sure she'll be sad, and at the same time she'll feel really good about it. But the truth is we haven't played well at home, and we need to. And I want the fans to come out and help them get going here. We got some great seniors that have given us some wonderful moments. They got 2 more games in Kenan Stadium. So we want all the fans to come out and help them, but I've told the guys, you need to play better at home. And we've played great on the road. So I don't know what that is, but it's time for us to pick it up and have a great performance at home, under the lights, on national TV, and it should be a fun challenge for us this weekend.
Knew about the nutrition room name and knew about the field patch.
She knew about all of that. In fact, they just put the plaque up next to the nutrition room today, which Jeremy will be releasing. They just sent us 5 minutes before we walked in here the pictures on the wall of the Keep Swinging and Tylee Strong on both sides, and at Virginia and Florida State, every one of those kids touch it on the way out. So it does matter to us. The logos look great. They're very classy and very well done. And I'm sure it'll be a hard return for her, but a proud moment as well. And he's a senior, so this is his last year for his legacy as well. So we're hoping she'll be at senior day, and he can be honored at senior day like he would be here.
Words, just how different everything is right in this building now as opposed to that last day that you were in here for a game?
Yeah, it's probably hard, Andrew. I hadn't thought a lot about it, but grief, pressure of how to handle someone that sick is different for all of us. I'd never done that before. We've never had a player that continually got worse on our team. I said we'd only lost 1 player at Texas, and it was a truck accident one night, and we got a call, so it's very different. It's still a loss, but it's very different than watching a young man get worse every day. And then you've got to make sure that you handle the family right and him right, and how much can the players see him? How much do they need to see him? He's exhausted and he's tired. Does he need him over there all the time? So it's all encompassing when you handle something like that. And then the grief is different too. You know, it's absolutely changed the way I think about some things, and my life's better because of Tylee Craft, 100%. Wish we had him longer, but he taught me more things than I've been around people for 73 years have taught me, and he taught me more things in a small moment. He taught me why pout after losses. You're not supposed to. We're talking about life and death here. After a loss, you're supposed to learn from your loss, correct it, and get better. I've been a guy that didn't handle losses well. Heck, I'm part of the loss, so fix my problems and get better with it. So he taught you to have fun. We don't know how many days we've got.
Follow up on that. And from a football perspective, you go from the 68-yard run after you guys have tied them. I would imagine from a football standpoint only, it feels a lot different around here as well. So it's not just the Tylee stuff, it's everything appears to be different in this building now than it was that day.
Yes, the team that we saw the last 2 weeks is the team that I saw in the spring, I see in practice, and the one I thought we would have all year. Now I can sit here for 45 minutes and go through all of the problems that this team has been faced with. Nobody cares. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're still supposed to win all the games. But we've all, like I said, I've read a lot about life and death here in the last month or two, and they all talk about you learn more from storms than you do from sunshine. You go through storms to find a rainbow. You have to handle tough things to make your life better. And right now, this is a tough team. They've had a bunch of stuff thrown at them. They've had negative talk. They've had people that have thrown them out. They've lost a player. They've had players sick and hurt. They're on their third quarterback, who now is playing as well as most quarterbacks in the country. So they've taken every negative thing that's happened to them, and over the last 2 weeks turned it into a positive, and nearly beat Georgia Tech even on that day where they thought they might lose their player. So I'm really impressed with this team. I'm impressed with the coaches have handled it. They've been positive. They've been upbeat. They've had energy. And that's why I'm very excited about watching us play the last 3 weeks.
Get back on the topic of roster management real quick. You mentioned obviously having starting to create a bowl game depth chart and talking to different guys. I remember last year you mentioned having a spring practice depth chart like toward the end. How do you kind of in these last 3 games balance trying to, of course, run the table, win the last 3, and then also kind of coaching for the future and trying to manage like what you're going to have next year? Like how do you kind of separate those two?
Yeah.
If that makes sense?
It's a very good question. The answer would be off week, bye week. It's not off. Bye week is a week where you can do that. We go back to work now. We're totally into the next 3 games only. But you had a moment there where you could separate yourself from the last 3 games and bowl game and spring practice and portal and start looking at that. And Pat Sudduth does as good a job of anybody in the country of saying, here are your numbers, defensive line, here's what you're losing, here's what you've got to replace. And then when people start going into the portal, we'll have a recruiting board, and that board will be up immediately, and the coaches will be looking at it and contacting those players. So it all happens really fast, and that's why you needed to address it in a bye week, because you get through the state game. I mean, portal opens the 9th of December. It's going to be here. I mean, it is on you. So you can't be sitting around saying, what do we need? What are we thinking about? You've got to do it now.
How has coaching changed from the last 2 years to now for you, and what you've noticed about your style, about the message? Because the last 2 years, you guys had 6 wins by mid-October, end of October, versus now we're trying to just get to that point and get that loyalty, if not more.
I think coaching is, it's always been multitasking, but it's probably more that way now than ever before, because you never know who's going to show up for games. I was sitting there with some friends in the afternoon, the morning at Florida State, because I got a lot of guys I played with and friends that are there, and then we had some top boosters here that I was standing around, and they said, you look confident, you look, they said, what do you think? I said, I think I've got no clue. I don't have any idea who's going to show up. There's 80 of them, and if 40 show up, we'll get beat. Hopefully 65 show up. You'd love to have 80 show up and play their best, but you're just handling more stuff now. Your media is more aggressive than ever before with sports. Somebody's fired every day, and then they're not the next week, and then they're fired again, and it's just who we are with social media. And then players, you're having players decide, I'm going to redshirt or I'm transferring. You're having some guys get in the portal early season, mid-season. We've been really fortunate here. We haven't had much of that, but you're just having to take whatever's thrown at you that day and fix it.
Is there a balance? Because I know last year, obviously, Drake May being such a top prospect, quarterback plays every single play. With Amari Hampton, like you said, being in your eyes a top prospect for the NFL, is there a balance between trying to give him as much time to shine in these final 3 games where it's guaranteed versus maybe playing him to the best of the chances to give you guys a chance to win those games, if that makes any sense?
Yes, but both are important for us. You'd like for him to win the Doak Walker Award. You'd like for him to get in the Heisman race. He's a phenomenal player. He's one of the best players in the country. But our first focus for all of them is to win the game, period. And that's what we do. Like we said, Davion Goss has helped rest him some. We thought that Barlow, we brought him in as a transfer to help with those carries. You could see he looked great when he went in there Saturday. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So hopefully we'll get him back for the last couple of games. But everything we do is to try first to win the game. And then we look at everything else. And that's what we've told the players that we talked about redshirting. If we need you to win a game, then we're going to play you. So understand that. But if we can redshirt you and it not hurt our chances to win, then we will redshirt you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
When you first got here compared to now, when you talk about your portal board with all the guys you're looking at, I mean, how big is it now compared to where you were? And how big is it in terms of numbers?
Yeah. It's interesting that there's a lot more talk about portal now than there is recruiting. It's changed that much. We didn't have a portal, and you're looking at guys now that are transferring, like the quarterback at Wake. This is his 3rd school. And we fought our guts out to get Tez to play at a 3rd school. He didn't even play at the first one. And now here we are. We got guys that are in their 5th school. So it's just changed so much, Chip, and it continues to change daily. We tell our coaches to stay off social media and don't worry about what's happening in the lawsuits and the revenue sharing, and Pat will handle all that. And then he gives us an update. In the staff meetings, I'll say, Pat, tell guys what they need to know. And tell them facts, because a lot of the stuff's a rumor, or this may happen or that may happen. They need to coach. But when he says, this is going to happen, this is 90% chance it's going to happen, so we've got to prepare for this. And we've got to look at revenue sharing and what does that mean, and how does that, how much money do you get? How do you distribute the money to the players at your position? Coaches are going to have to do a better job of evaluation than ever before, because recruiting is going to become more about evaluation than it is recruiting, because you got to figure out who you want and then you got to pay them. And that's going to be a huge part of recruiting moving forward.
Do you ever think you need a general manager?
No. And the same with guys on your team. You're going to have to start deciding who gets paid more, because it's going to be salary caps and you can't pay them all the same. So you're actually going to have to say, this safety is going to get this much money, so this safety is going to get less. And I'm sorry, but if you don't like it, transfer, because that's just the way we feel. So not only are you going to have to do a better job of evaluating before they get here, you're going to have to do a great job of evaluating who you've got, and then you're going to have to develop who you've got. And even in the portal, just having money is not going to be the answer. You've got to have money, you've got to make the right decisions in the portal, and then you've got to spend your money properly, or you're wasting money. Excuse me. Adam was next, and then we'll get.
I'll jump in after you.
You're still talking about age. So what you doing with Dan Shepard? Seniority.
I defer to you all the time.
Adam's did a great
Well,
job.
and let you go, because I might forget that you wanted to go. So we're with old people.
Ask you about the arc of the season, and obviously Kylie's a big part of it, but you start the season with a lot of hope. You win the first 3, you give up 70 points to JMU, you talk about quitting out of the game, so that triggers a lot of chatter in Tar Heel Nation about how long you're going to stay. Now you've got 2 impressive wins, And I don't think a lot of people realize if you win the last 3 games, you'll have the best record that you've had since you've been here. So,
Yeah.
can you talk about that? Have you ever had a season that has that kind of an arc?
No, I can't ever remember a season that's even near like this with all the stuff we've had thrown at us. And at the same time, my job as their leader is to handle it all. And we didn't even play great against Charlotte and Central. I mean, very honestly, we won. We blew both of them out late, but we didn't play great. And we stunk against James Madison on defense. We scored 50 points. Had 500-something yards on offense, but we had 8 turnovers or something. So it was one of those games like Notre Dame and Northern Illinois. I mean, why do they happen? I don't know. They're
Something happens that the fan base doesn't like, that be a lot of chatter will resurface.
If we don't play good and win Saturday night, there'll be bad chatter. I mean, that's the way college football is, Art. But I don't worry about that. I worry about winning. And my total focus is on winning the last 3 games, starting with this weekend, and then having the best record that we've ever had. And winning a bowl game for the first time in a while, and winning 9 games. That's my total focus right now, which is what I said before the season. We didn't have much chatter. We weren't supposed to be any good. Nobody even considered us being in the top 25. And then we beat Minnesota, and everybody said, well, this is a little better than I thought. And then we win 2 more, and they were okay. And then we got blown out, and they said, they're awful. So that we'll drop them. And that's just what happens in our world, modern day. But I have to be the one that keeps trying to push to do the positive, not the one that dies and lives on every moment of every play, because these are kids and they have real lives and they got mental health and they got school and I'm responsible for them. So if I can't stay strong and positive, then I'm not doing my job.
It's a great opportunity for you, considering what's come before it.
It's a great opportunity. I'm so proud of these kids. I'm proud of these coaches. That's why I want the fans to do the same. We're supposed to be in the present, and we're supposed to always try to be forward thinking. Let's be in the present with this team, and let's reward them for their last 2 weeks and the staff. Let's have a great environment Saturday night. Let's go play 3 great games and end up with a real positive season. That's my focus on the whole thing.
May I go now?
Yes, unless anybody older has got anything else.
I was trying to think of a question.
Yeah, Tommy?
Getting up there is a problem.
Tommy, are you? Yeah. Okay.
Back as you mentioned earlier, the defensive line, you called them dominant, physical. I mean, it is 17 sacks the last 2 games for this group up front. Watching it, it feels like, along with the way they're playing, there's like a confidence and also a chemistry. Like when you get Bo in there on those, the psycho packages, like, the buttons to press, I guess, that Jeff is doing. Like, what do you see? What stands out to you? Maybe not X's and O's, but what just stands out to you by the way they're playing in this sort of groove, that they found?
Yeah. One thing, Adam, would be that K'Mon Rucker's back. He's one of the best players in the country. And you can't just take one of the best players in the country out and be as good. And he affects everybody. He's a leader. He's got really strong faith. He's such a dominating player that they have to put 2 people on him, and he affects the run and the pass. And when you put he and Bo, and you don't even have to take Rucker or Richie out because he's a tackle, but he's so athletic that he can stay in there. And then you got Des Evans. So you got 4 of the best pass rushers in the country that are in there. So the chemistry's good and they feel good. The other thing I feel is that we're fresh. We're fresher than we've been this time of the year. We're healthier because we're fresher. We've been playing too deep in that front line the entire year, and now our legs are fresh. So it's not like, we got 2 or 3 people banged up at the end of the year and they didn't get to play in the defensive line here the last couple of years, and that's really affected us. So that's a factor. And I also believe that as a play caller, you got to get comfortable with your quarterback. And Chip's really getting comfortable with his quarterback because he and Jacoby now are on the same page, and so we know who we are. Defensively, the same thing. Jeff Collins has got to figure out who we are. And he's got to figure out, is there a corner I need to cover? Do I have to do this to run this defense to cover that one? I think right now he's comfortable. When you get that much pressure on the passer and you stop the run, turn them loose, man, let them go. And we're simpler, and we're playing more free, and they're having more fun. They look like they're confidence. You can't have fun without confidence. And they weren't having fun during that stretch that Art was talking about. And we weren't doing the things we said we were going to do. And I've said, why don't, when I stand up here every Monday and say we're going to stop the run, I said, would somebody please stop the run? I said, I'm really tired of telling everybody we're going to stop the run, then they rush for 300 yards. So I said, if put 11 up there on the line of scrimmage, if they throw for 500 yards, I'm fine. But stop the run. I am really tired of lying to our fans. And I said, so I want the run stopped. So for 2 weeks, we have stopped the run. That's harder with Wake Forest because of the design of their offense. It's really unique what they do. But I think a lot of times coaches are too smart. They work so hard to put so much in to stop everything, and then we don't stop anything. You got to be great at something. And I said it a month ago, but there's more distractions for kids right now than ever before. So it's harder for them to lock in on what you're teaching them because they got so much stuff going on. We got agents talking to them now. We got third parties. We got parents talking about transferring. We got guys talking about pros. You got social media at a higher level. I'll walk up there for lunch in a minute, and every one of them will be sitting at the table reading something. And I usually walk up and say, what are you looking at? And they'll go. So.
Can't do that.
No. But and then they got all the things we all had. They got girlfriends, they got family issues, they've got school, they got sickness, so we're at an all-time high for distractions, and that's what I worry about our young people. I worry about more depression because they got more on them. They can see the child that died in Iraq, and they can see the child that died in New Jersey. We didn't have all that. We just had our stuff. So there's more mental pressure on kids than ever before, and I think coaches moving forward are going to have to be simpler and be great at what you're doing than ever before because kids don't have as much time in their minds to do all the stuff the coaches do. Coaches are over here all day, every day, and they can start thinking about too much and, God, this looks great and this looks good. And I have to be careful. I'll see a great play somewhere and I'll send it to them while I'm telling them to be more simple. And they look at me like, did you just send us this? I said, yeah, that's just my ADD.
Okay, well, I won't take it.
Do you find that when as you're starting to make these, I guess, approaches to recruits and kids, about the portal and using money to recruit someone, do you find that kids are mature enough to understand sometimes, or is this even something they consider getting money versus having the ability to maybe become a pro or become a big-time player? Like, hey, this scheme might fit me more, but I'm not getting as much money versus a school that's offering me a lot more, but I might not shine as enough in the spotlight.
Those are all good questions. It depends on the family. Some families just need the money. Some families are saying, he may not be a pro player, so I better get my money now. So but money is a bigger factor than ever before. And as I see it, pro baseball, you can pay whatever you want. Pro football, there is a plan and a salary cap and a scale. Right now, we're pro baseball when it comes to paying. And until we can get back to pro football, the ones with the most money are going to have the best players. Just period. It's 100% that way. Even with the revenue sharing, if people have a balance of money, that will help those that haven't had as much money. But still, the way I understand it, the collective is going to be able to go get as much money outside as they are now. So it's still not going to solve the problems. It'll just make it where those that had less money will have more, but the ones that have all the money will still have more than everybody else. Does that make any sense? Does that?
Baseball, for example, they have their across-the-board revenue sharing, then each team has its own local contracts with radio and TV. Like the Yankees make a lot more than the Royals. So that's kind of what you're saying college football is going to be like.
It is. Right now, it is. The ones with the most money that can pay the most are the ones that are going to get the best players.
The revenue sharing is going to go up for everybody, but that's still outside entity.
That's right. Depend on your university and your athletics department. They will decide what part of that, quote, 20-something million is going to go to football. And there is not a decision that each school has to be equal. It's going to be decided by each university, period. And then the way I understand it, the reason the lawsuit was in there is the NCAA was saying, so let's do away with collectives and let's just have the revenue sharing, so it'll be fair. And other people, judges, said we can't do that, so you're still going to have a collective that can still give another $2 million to a player outside of the revenue sharing as it stands right now.
Sounds fun. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Is that it?
Well, I guess the reason I asked that is because, theoretically, without knowing how much Amarian makes using NIL and collectives, I mean, theoretically, he could have gone somewhere else for more money, but he might play better and fit his scheme here more, obviously. So I guess that's why I asked.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. But again, it depends on the family and on the kid.
And the background. Yeah.
Omarion and Kamen made a decision they wanted to be here.
Yeah.
And it's worked out for both of them. So it's.
Happened 95% of the kids.
That's right.
Like we saw at Green Bay, stayed here, obviously, versus
Yes.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Coach.